to do psychology on his own in a little house. And everyone who, all of Freud's main influential group went all over the world and started all kinds of clinics and so on and so forth, and became a sort of like a psychological clergy. Like, you can see this nowadays in behavioral psychology. You can see all self-help books. There's a particular trend that goes back to Freud in what we believe reality to be. And if you're an outlier, you're probably either mentally insane or on drugs. Because very few people really acknowledge Jung's influence. They're like, I'd say, an elite minority, to be quite frank. And, yeah. So basically, Freud's whole theory was twofold. He first of all said, everything that happens to you is the result of what you've done before, which is history. And secondly, all neuroses are the results of a repressed sex drive. These two things are complete bullshit from my personal point of view, because I see no fucking validity for it whatsoever. But we buy into it across the board by virtue of our common language in society. So the degree that you've detached from society and gone off to find things on your own, you can see how it's fucking bullshit. But it's like people don't even acknowledge it. Like, it's an unspoken presupposition that these are things. So basically, according to this theory, the reason why I'm a virgin is because at one point in history, in my history, not what's happening now, not what has been happening, but what happened before, which causes somehow what's happening now. My first girlfriend, I was sexually attracted to a woman, and I got into such an emotional complication with her that I refused to have sex with other women. And because this woman was not willing to have sex with me, the emotional complications took over my life, and even after she'd gone on, they clouded my judgment, so to speak, and prevented me from what was natural and what was healthy, which was me losing my virginity to some promiscuous partner, relatively joylessly probably, just for the fulfillment of an urge. And it is mainly because I didn't fulfill this urge that I have all kinds of pretensions born out of my neurosis to intellectualism, towards civilized impulses, towards romanticism, and all things of that nature. And all my poetry, all of my ideals, basically, can be traced back to this root. And it's obvious to anyone who has had this rite of passage, which is the loss of one's virginity, the indulgence in carnal pleasure, and the release, the absolutely necessary, driven release of this energy. It's obvious to them that I'm up my own ass, basically. That I have no higher motives than sex, but all this is a very thin veneer for the simple, hard, brute facts of life, which I am too idealistic to be disillusioned with. Now, contrast that with the Jungian approach. Jung did base a lot of his theory in history, but he also acknowledged that sexuality was only one impulse. And furthermore, since it's on a spectrum, with the same impulses that we have towards compassionate love, self-sacrificing love, the kind of love of a good parent, which is rare, and really fundamentally our spiritual attainment. Sexuality as a particular expression of erotic love is not necessarily. I mean, it can wait. Because this energy is continuous with, shall we say, in Indian psychology, the other chakras. And I'm not meaning to push that onto anyone. I'm just suggesting what the psychology was observed in a different culture, independent of Freud entirely. It's continuous with these other higher impulses. The higher impulses aren't merely a manifestation of a repressed sex drive. They're a manifestation, in many cases, of a healthy sex drive taking flight. Now here I will introduce the Eastern perspective. In Eastern Kundalini, which is a type of yoga, and this has been popularized in the West but fairly badly, it's understood that sex is one of the primitive impulses which are necessary for our health, but anyone wishing to go beyond the primitive impulses has to sacrifice them for some time. And once that person has reached a level of spiritual attainment, which is clarity of mind, ability to love beyond restrictions, and self-expression, things of that nature, things that Abraham Maslow noticed also, although he again was working independently of this Eastern mindset, then one can return and use the sexual energy, but use it in a different way. And the mythologist Joseph Campbell makes a comparison between this pattern of using sex towards a higher spiritual fulfillment with our trend in the West of romantic and courtly love. Because you'll notice in the works of Shakespeare and all these great writers that there is a distinction drawn between the carnal fixation upon the fulfillment